All right, y'all, I have a confession. I am terrible at my own marketing and social media in particular. Like, genuinely, I'm very bad at it. I'm just too close to my own stuff. I can help people with their marketing all day long, but when it comes to my own, in fact, I started this podcast as a means of avoiding social media, or at the very least have some content to post that I didn't have to sit down and create as a reel. And I know I'm not alone because almost every founder I know has some version of this. You're good at what you do, you know you're good at what you do, but other things, usually marketing, didn't get the memo. And meanwhile, everyone keeps telling you the same thing. Just post every day, make the reels, feed the algorithm, but like, is any of it actually worth it? Has anyone actually tested that out? Like, actually done it every single day and watched what happened? Well, yes, today's guest actually did. For 30 days in public, she does social media for a living, and we're going to hear all about what she found, and what she found is not what you'd expect, but it might be exactly what you need to hear. So welcome back to The Table, the podcast where we talk about all things you'd actually want to bring up at a really good dinner party with all of your founder friends, marketing, strategy, and whatever goes into building a business that works in real life for you. I'm Danny, the founder of Mise en Plan, and I am your host today. On this season of The Table, we are talking about all things navigating change, not change for its own sake, but what's actually shifting in the world around us and how the smartest founders are adapting how they build and run their businesses within and around it. And today, I am so excited to be sitting down with Leanne Miller, the founder of Leanne Miller Media. Leanne, welcome to The Table.
Thank you.
I'm so excited to have you here, and I'm going to tell everyone a little bit about you before we dig in. Leanne is a Portland-based content coach and social media strategist who helps women in business who run their own social media but don't want social media to run their lives. With over 15 years of experience in photography, digital media, and brand storytelling, she brings a grounded real-life perspective to content marketing that is built for small business owners who just aren't full-time content creators. And she specializes in implementing sustainable social media strategies and creating intentional content. And I invited Leanne here today because she and I have been following each other for a little while now. And the second I saw her pop up in my feed doing this 30-day experiment, I went, I need to talk to her because I needed to know how it turned out. And so, Leanne, I am so glad that you are here. Thank you.
Yeah, I'm so excited to share about the experiment in this way and like dive really deep into it because there's only so much that I shared on social media about what was going on. So I've got so much to say today.
I'm so excited because already there was just so much visible. Just seeing what's happening under the surface, this is going to be really exciting. But before we get into any of that really good stuff, the rule around here is this is a dinner party, and I have to ask, what is your favorite thing to bring to a dinner party? What's coming to the table today?
And what a great question to like overthink. I think that probably my answer would be so boring, the most boring thing. Because right now in my season of life, the thing that I usually bring to gatherings like this would be the thing that I know my child is going to eat. So I'd probably be bringing like some buttered bread or like some apples or something that I just know whatever chaos is happening around, whatever he's going to sit down and eat, there's actually something going in his little belly. So that's my mom answer.
That's such a sweet response. It's like also just like, here, be happy, kid. Enjoy. Eat some good stuff because you're probably not going to eat what I'm serving anyways, which is
Totally.
although a lot of other guests have brought like mac and cheese and some good dips. So you never know. There might have been some things, but yes, a little buttered bread and some apples is very sweet. Very sweet.
I'd probably be diving into it too.
I mean, put some caramel and some peanut butter on those apples. I'm happy. I'm very happy. Ugh, amazing. Well, thank you for that. You are fully invited, and so is your little one. But I'm curious. I have to know the path you had from, because you were a photographer first, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so you went from being behind the camera to coaching business owners who run their own social media. What is the biggest gap that you spotted for the people who just are the face of their brand when it comes to getting out there and being visible?
Yeah, I have been a photographer for about 15 years now. It's what I did after I graduated from high school, just started up a little photography business to see how it would go, a bit of a gap year. But marketing has actually always been my favorite part of running a business. And I know that I'm very much like the outlier in that. I've always loved social media. I had the opportunity to work for a nonprofit in media. So, like digital marketing, print marketing, all sorts of amazing stuff. And as I relaunched my business this last year, after a little stint as a stay at home mom with my son, I knew that I wanted social media marketing to be a big part of my business. So I was intending to relaunch just as a photographer, doing brand photography for small businesses. And as I started putting myself out there on social media, I had a lot of people asking me if I could help them with their social media. And one of the comments that I got was that I made social media look easy. And that really meant a lot to me as someone who, like, I'm not an influencer. I'm not, a full time Instagram guru. I'm just a mom, a business owner, a normal person making social media work for my business. And so I wanted to start sharing on my own platform what I was doing, like the strategies that I was using to stay consistent and how I was showing up in the midst of my real life and wanting to put it out there so that other people could benefit from that. And something that I realized early on, I actually had the chance to sit down with another business owner for coffee, and she was telling me that she felt like as a business owner, it feels like the options are either to hire out a social media manager or to like burn out trying to run your own social media in the midst of everything. So I really wanted to create something that small business owners could use without outsourcing, although that's great. I just wanted there to be another option for people who wanted to run their social media or who didn't have the budget for a social media manager, but also people who just want to be the one connecting with their people in real time, who are the face of their brand and want to be visible online. And so that is what I built through Leanne Miller Media.
Oh, I love that. And then that resonates very much also with, why I started doing what I was doing and hearing all these creative entrepreneurs are like, I love doing what I do, but like the marketing is going to make me quit. I was like, no, you're too talented. Don't give it up. And it often is the social media that just burns people out, the expectations, the social expectations on social media for how often you're on there and what kind of content you're doing and keeping up with trends and doing all of this, that, and the other and making it interesting and making sure your hook is right and all of this. And it can get really overwhelming really fast. And so
Yeah. It is a full-time job. It feels like in the midst of the full-time job of running your business and also people who have so many responsibilities outside of business too, it can definitely feel like a lot.
it can. And I mean, the whole posting every single day thing is often what is very daunting. And so I'm really excited to hear more about your 30-day experiment where you did post every day for 30 days. But I would love for you to tell us about the experiment and what made you decide to do it in the first place.
Sure, I would love to share about that. Yeah, I feel like I just got to a point in my business where I felt like I wanted to level up a bit, and I just decided to do that in a way that I know how, which is to kind of dive even deeper into social media. Something that I really genuinely believe wholeheartedly that I feel like a lot of business owners need to hear is that although social media is a very powerful tool for marketing, you don't need like big viral success to have a successful business. I think that those things get kind of mashed up together sometimes in our world. And so I love being on social media. And so I thought I can jump into this and try it. I wouldn't necessarily recommend everybody just go into posting for 30 days in a row if that's not what you want to do. But I really wanted to do that in order to kind of branch out and expand my network, to connect with new people, to reach out to new people. And it reminds me a lot of what you were saying earlier that for business owners, it can be so hard to feel like you're so good at what you do and you have a message that you really want as many people in the world to know about as possible. But having to translate that into this world where the hook has to be right and there's all this attention span and everything, it can feel really hard. So I wanted to do this experiment to grow my account, but also to kind of figure out, is it worth it to post every day? Is it worth it to do a big social media push? And can I do that in a way that still feels authentic to me? Like, can I balance that with my real life? Can I still feel like myself, even if I am trying to be so visible on social media? Because as much as I love the strategy side of social media, something that's really important to me is the sustainability side of it too. And that is a huge piece that I think in the midst of all the advice to just do more, more, more all the time gets a bit lost in the world of social media.
Absolutely. And so, what did the experiment actually involve? Was it trying new kinds of ways of posting? Tell us exactly like what was going through your mind as you were designing the strategy for those 30 days.
Sure. Yeah, I wanted to try a few things that I had heard as like common advice for how to grow on social media. And that's because, like I said, like I don't mind doing it. I love being online. So if I can give it a try and find out if it actually works and help inform other business owners so that you don't have to post 30 days in a row and I can tell you if you need to or not. So it was three things. First was posting every day on Instagram in my main feed for 30 days in a row. The second was utilizing trial reels, which is a somewhat new-ish kind of feature on Instagram. And the third was focusing on what I think of as introduction content. So I have a four-pillar system in creating content for different categories that are all meant to meet people where they're at on the journey, whether they're just getting to know you or they're feeling more ready to buy. And the introduction content is like that brand awareness growth kind of content that's meant to reach out and find new people.
Great. And where did all the time come from? Did it take much more time out of your day to do it every single day, or what was the net increase in time spent?
That is a great question because, of course, the time does have to come from somewhere. I think when I was, 20 years old, just starting my business, I really could have done as much social media marketing as I wanted to. I didn't have a partner at home that I needed to coordinate schedules with. I didn't have a child. I didn't have these other life responsibilities. And as a mom and as someone who carries a lot of household labor, I do have that now. Time restriction is a big thing that I need to think about. So the time actually did end up coming from some of the time that I normally spend doing the household stuff, taking care of household admin and logistics and things like that. And I knew that it would be a sacrifice. The time doesn't just magically appear out of nowhere. And so I knew going into it that this is something that I can do for 30 days, but I know I couldn't do it beyond that. Even if I got really big, great results or anything like that, I knew that it was just a little experiment and that the time would have to come from somewhere.
What did anything have to get put aside for those 30 days while you were creating it?
Yeah, thankfully, it ended up working out that it was a month that I had a bit less on, like, the big project side of the work that I do, and that's also partly why I decided to go for it and to do this experiment during that month that I did it. But I am a really big fan of batching content, and so even though I was posting every day, I wasn't necessarily sitting down for a whole hour each day creating a post and putting it out there. It looked like a lot of taking these chunks of time, which included some of my normal work time, but also, like I said, some of the time that I would be doing household admin and things like that, and creating 3 or 4 posts at the same time in order to get them out there and scheduling them. So, I didn't necessarily want to be creating something every day. I think that knowing myself, I knew that that might get exhausting and I might not be able to sustain it. So, I really focused on creating these blocks in my schedule that I could sit down and batch a lot of content at once and make sure it was ready for the next few days.
But do you typically batch? I'm just curious because everyone has different strategies for how they batch and all of that. But do you typically do one day a week or a couple days a week? How did you batch 30 days worth of content?
Yeah, it's my preference for sure to do like one day and just make all the posts for a week. Typically, I would be posting about 3 or 4 times a week, and that's doable for me to get that done in like one time block on one day. I love the flow of that. Like, I love having it done for the week and knowing I don't have to think about it again until next week. But for this experiment specifically, I had a few different time blocks during the week. I think there are about three total that I was sitting down to tackle like those next few days of posts.
I mean, I struggle to get one reel out. As I always say if social media went away tomorrow, I'd be fine with it. But it does play such a valuable role in how we do everything. And so I guess my next question for you is, social media, big purpose of it from a business perspective. I mean, yes, is obviously to connect with other people, but it's part of that is that visibility and creating the space to be visible. And how did it feel to be that much more visible during the time that you were posting every single day?
Yeah, I feel like I don't mind putting myself out there. I don't mind talking to the camera. I think it's one of those things like I'm probably doing the job that I meant to do because I was always like making little videos with my sister when we were kids, filming ourselves, on like the photo booth on iMac when you could just like do these fun effects and create these silly videos. And I did find that because I was posting more and pushing myself to post more, it made some of the posting feel a bit easier because there was a bit less pressure. And I know for some business owners that the visibility thing feels really, it can feel really heavy. It can feel hard to put yourself out there. And I do think it is one of these things that the more that you exercise that muscle, the easier it does get. That can start small too. Like if you don't feel like you want to be talking in a reel and put it in your feed today, you can start in your stories. You can start with just showing little bits of your life without showing your face. But I definitely feel like pushing myself to do it more actually made the pressure come off a little bit when it came to visibility.
Is there specific advice that, aside from posting in stories, which is a great tip, by the way, for some reason, stories just, even though I know we know that it's short time, but despite the time, it's just so much easier to post and it feels a lot more accessible to do stories. But what's your big advice to your clients that you have that you're coaching on, getting that confidence to be visible? Because I'm sure a lot of your clients come to you because they're struggling too.
Yeah, and I think that goes back to just what I feel like is at the heart of social media, which is connection. I remember the days when it felt like the golden age of the internet, when you would like take a picture of your breakfast and put a grainy filter over it, and that was it. Like there was no stress about how many views is it going to get or how's the algorithm going to think of it. It was just there to show a bit of your day. And if like one person commented on it, that was awesome. That was all you needed, right? To get that little validation boost. And I think that when business owners are struggling with visibility, a lot of times I'd recommend to them to think about who they're showing up for, who you're showing up to connect with, and to speak directly to that person or to post directly for that person. Just putting the algorithm to the side for a moment because the algorithm's job is to try to match people with the content that they want to see. It's not to like judge you on your content creation skills. It's just trying to show people what they're interested in seeing. So cutting out the middleman by just pushing the algorithm to the side and saying, I'm showing up to talk to this person today. And if one person comments, if one person likes it, if one person shares it, that really is enough. And that's enough to keep kind of sustaining you to keep going forward, knowing that that's the goal is just to connect with someone today.
I love that because I know that for me, visibility has always been a challenge. And I know it is for so many people. It can be very daunting in a world of comparisonitis, right? Where you're just like, oh, I'm not going to be able to do it as well as so and so. So the visibility part wasn't necessarily, the hardest part for you, but what was? What was the hardest part of this whole challenge for yourself?
Oh, I have to think about that. I think that the hardest part was knowing that the experiment might not, like, I'm using air quotes for those listening, it might not work, right? Like, it might not actually get the results that I'm hoping for. And the vulnerability of putting myself out there anyway. And that's something that I really wanted to do. I wanted to build in public in a way and show that I was going on this journey because we see so many results on the other side of it. Like I see this all the time in my feed because this is my world. I don't know if other people see this too, but it's easy to see these things that are like I grew 1 million followers in a week, or I did this and here's how I would do it again. And it makes you feel like that's almost the measure of success. Um, and it also makes you feel like if you're on the journey, it's not quite valid until you get to the end of it. So I really wanted to show the journey, even though I knew going into it that I might not have this big success story at the end. I still wanted to be transparent about what I was doing and let people into the process so that it could benefit them too.
I love that. And I love that you shared it publicly and you said on every single post, 30 days of posting every single day to see what happens. And I mean, that in itself is a cool strategy because it got my attention. And I'm sure lots of other people's attention. And so I guess let's get into the nitty gritty because I am dying to know what the
Sure.
results were and what they actually mean. So, what happened with your growth?
So by the end of the 30 days, I had gone from about 540 followers to 570. By the way, I should have said this at the beginning, but I don't have a huge social media following. I think 500 people is amazing and incredible. The fact that there are now 600-ish people following along with what I'm doing in my business is amazing. And so I did grow. I did, hit the goal of growing my following. But something that I thought was so interesting is that I actually grew at the same rate that I had whenever I post about 3 or 4 times a week, which I mentioned is kind of my normal. Right now it's summer break, and so it's actually a little bit less. I'm only posting 2 times a week, so I'm not growing at that same rate right now, which is okay. Not every season needs to be a season to grow. But I found that so interesting that the growth rate was the same. So posting more content, which is one of the things that I went into the experiment wanting to find out, posting more content didn't necessarily lead directly or immediately to more growth.
It's really interesting. Do you have any hypotheses for why that happened?
I do. I am always a bit cautious talking about the Instagram algorithm because it's such an enigma. Nobody truly knows what in the world is going on with that Instagram algorithm. But something that I've been seeing lately is that quality seems to be more of a priority than quantity when it comes to the algorithm. It's also because for me personally, I am really focused on connecting with the right people and not just everybody. So when I was posting every day, I still wanted it to be really intentional and to reach out to the right people. And sometimes it just takes time to grow and to find those people, and sometimes you can't like expedite that process and try to make that connection happen faster. So I think that is a bit of a factor. I know that's not a super direct answer. It's also because I try not to make a lot of speculations about the algorithm because I don't want to say anything that's not true. But I do think it has a lot to do with the type of content that I was putting out there in an effort to find not just a lot of people, but the people that were going to be the right people to connect with.
Absolutely. And I think there is something there about making sure you're meeting the right people and not just all the people. I know when I work with a lot of my clients, there feels like success is the number of eyeballs or the number of likes. Those are all things that I call vanity metrics because they make us feel good, but they don't necessarily translate into revenue or into something meaningful that helps us with our goals in some way, unless our goal is literally just more followers, more eyeballs, because we're making money off of those followers and eyeballs, which I think most of the people listening to this podcast are not those people because we have businesses and we're founders of those businesses and not influencers. And so you said quality over quantity. Is there what kinds of content are you seeing, with your clients, with yourself, with, what's happening out there in the social sphere? What kinds of content do you see most resonating today when it comes to getting the positive results? Like, what is quality content nowadays?
Yeah, I'm glad you asked that because when I say quality, I want to make it clear that I don't mean like the fanciest video or like all these transition effects or like this beautiful font, not quality of like what the final product looks like, but quality in terms of the messaging and the connection to the message of your brand that you're bringing. So when I'm talking about quantity and just putting out all this random content just to get eyeballs on it, as opposed to quality, meaning being really intentional with the content that you're putting out there. And something that you mentioned that I thought was really interesting was how you were invited in, like you were kind of drawn into what I was doing because it was a journey. It was like this specific experience that I was doing. So I was really intentional to not just post 30 random posts on Instagram in a month, but to be intentional about going on a journey and inviting people into that and letting that be the thing that would then help us that way.
Intentional, I think, is, probably the better word that we should all be using when it comes to content on social media, making sure it's intentional. Like, I know I see so many people just falling for the, oh, I'll get more eyeballs if I do some viral trend and then you'll get more people. But that's not necessarily the case if it's not done in an intentional way. And so, how do you know then if your social media is actually working, if those vanity metrics, the virality, the eyeballs, the likes, aren't necessarily the measure?
So I totally agree with what you're saying about the views and the likes, and everything feels so good in the moment, and it can feel like it's successful. I'm using air quotes again. It can feel like we're seeing success if we see those things. But I think what I see a lot of business owners struggling with is that that takes a lot of time. Social media is a free marketing tool, but it takes so much time, and I feel like when people are focused on getting the views and doing the trends, it takes a lot of time out of your day, and it's hard to connect it directly to seeing results for your business. I just worry about people spending a lot of time on something when the people that might be seeing might not be those people that are going to be the next right connection for you. So when I work with clients, I talk about everyday evidence, like not these big viral moments that feel really huge and exciting, but just like what's going on in the day to day. And I group them into three different categories. So the first is online evidence. And that can be the things like the views, but it could also be the likes, the saves, the shares. When somebody messages you to say, I really needed to hear this today, that is such an indicator that what you're creating is resonating with the right people. The second category is offline evidence. So, this is where you might be having in person interactions, networking, things like that. And people will say something like, oh, I love what you posted the other day. And that sentence tells me that they're paying attention and that it's memorable. And that is such an indicator that what you're creating and putting out there isn't just going out into the Instagram void, it's actually getting seen by the right people. And then the third is internal evidence, which, like, internal being like inside of your own self, that when you feel good about the way you show up, when you have the capacity and the energy, as opposed to feeling like social media is this necessary evil and you're just showing up with like the lowest of low energies and like showing up but not really putting the heart behind your business into it. When you actually feel good about it, that's also an indicator that you're on the right track and that you can sustain it and you can keep going.
Absolutely. And I think one thing I love to remind people of is that people can still love, see, experience your content without necessarily engaging with it in the way you might want. I mean, I love to put into perspective that, like, I am a classic doom scroller. I spend more time on social media than I probably should. Scrolling, seeing something, really enjoying it, chuckling, moving on, or really absorbing it, but not necessarily liking it. And so it's one thing that I'm trying to be better at is when I see fellow small businesses, I do like their content as best as I can. And I encourage everyone, if you're on this podcast, after your listen, go on and just give some people some likes because you know how good it makes you feel. It'll make them feel good too. Not necessarily for vanity purposes, but just recognize that, they put time and effort and vulnerability in creating and presenting that content to connect with you. So let's give the love around to all of our fellow founders.
Yeah, and really, I think that's what social media is all about. Like, I feel like so many people think that social media is so different than it used to be. But as I was talking about, the moment where you just throw out your breakfast and you're like, this is just my day, here it is. Like, I think that a lot of people are really craving for social media to feel that way again. So even though there's so many new tools, there's reels and there's trail reels and there's all these things, the way of getting the connection to happen might be a little bit different now, but the fact that it's about connection hasn't changed. And so that's why a lot of the work that I do has to do with kind of shifting our mindset from like social media is all about going viral to social media is just another way to stay in connection with your people, to find new people to connect with. And engagement is a really big part of that. My business specifically, it's always been a priority for me to engage with other accounts and to just like be social on social media instead of posting and ghosting and just putting content out there and then, throwing my phone across the room because sometimes you want to do that after you've
Yeah.
finally gotten the reel to post. But to stay on there and connect with people and keep it social. And that really means a lot to people, like what you're saying. Like a lot of people have noticed that that's part of what I do, not just to post, but to be a person on there and to connect that way. It's really,
I think we love seeing other people be normal people on social media. Um, I think we went through this phase of over curated, over polished content, and now there's just something refreshing about it being real. It takes a little bit of the pressure off to also be over curated and over polished. Of course, it all depends on your brand and who you are and all of that, but you never know who's going to resonate with it. And so, what would you say is your best advice for someone who wants to try their own version of a 30-day challenge?
yeah, I love what you're saying about being less polished, about being willing to be yourself. I think that I agree with you for sure that we got kind of into this phase where it was all about the polish. And especially now that AI is such a big part of the world that we live in, I'm not against using AI tools at all. Like, I think it's so smart to create systems that work for you. But in terms of like the final content that goes out there, I think that a lot of people are a bit tired of the AI generated content. And it also doesn't feel like you're getting to know the real person behind that brand, which is, I think, why people go on social media to connect with other people. So I definitely would recommend putting yourself out there. And that doesn't have to mean setting up the camera and making a talking video right away. But even being the one to write your caption, even if the grammar doesn't feel perfect, is a way that you can be human on social media and attract those people that want to connect with you because people really do. Something that I really want people to keep in mind is that it's not about just posting every day. I think we addressed that when we were talking about the results and that it wasn't just the fact that I was posting every day. It didn't make a difference. The quantity didn't make a difference in the amount of growth that I saw. But I chose to do something that was in line with my brand, like share a journey that was in line with what I do. So my 30 days looked like, can I grow on Instagram and can I feel like myself in the midst of it, which is so in line with what my brand is all about and what I help people do. So if you feel like you're ready for a 30-day challenge, if you want to put yourself out there on social media more, I would recommend to find your own journey to go on. It doesn't have to be mine, but that could look like something educational, like sharing something of value for 30 days in a row. So, like Danny, with your business, if you did something like, I'm going to share like a 5-minute marketing tip every day for 30 days or something like that. And it's just these little things like, hey, go check your Google business profile, see if it's current, just these tiny things that business owners often forget about or have on the very bottom of our list. That could be something that you could do that's not necessarily a journey, but something that people are wanting to stick around for to see what the next thing is going to be. And then if you wanted to do it more of like a personal journey style, like what I did, that could look like maybe for a health coach saying something like, I'm going to cut out sugar for 30 days and see what happens. And again, that's something that people can connect to and relate to and something that will help them want to stick around, not just to see it in their feed and scroll on by, but say, oh, I'm actually really curious to see what's going to happen with that. But if posting for 30 days in a row sounds like the worst thing in the world, that's okay too. I would definitely recommend if you feel like you want social media to be a bigger part of your business that you start with what you are capable of starting with, what you have in your hands, the time that you have. And right now, if you're not posting weekly, if you're posting sporadically, then one post a week is actually enough to start with. that is going to be something that you can sustain consistently that will do more work for your business than if you just keep not posting. So even though it's not 5 times a week or every day or something, that is still something that you can do and take a step forward to keep growing your business in the right direction.
Oh, I love that. That's so helpful. And I feel inspired to actually go and, dust off my social media. This has been such a fun conversation. And I'm so excited that you were here to talk us through everything you did and all of your advice for anyone that wants to do it. And the thing I'm most walking away with is that there is so much room for us to change how we think about social media, how we think about social media in the context of what it's meant to do for us, how we need to be there for it, but also the types of content that we put out, thinking about intentionality more than quality and especially more than quantity. So, yes, 30 days, if you can make it happen, it's a great challenge for yourself. And there's a lot that can happen. But it is that intentionality of like, I am determined to do this. I'm going to change how this all fits into what I do every single day. So thank you, Leanne, for sharing your thoughts, for sharing your expertise. I know that I'm super inspired, and I hope everyone else who's listening is too. And so, Leanne, if someone listening does want to, keep the conversation going, learn more about the 30 days or being more intentional or getting some help with how they run their social media, where can they find you? How can they get in touch with you?
I would love that. I feel like I still have so much more to say about it all. So if there are any specific questions or anything that anyone wants to ask, I would love for them to find me on Instagram at Leanne Miller Media. And if you send me a message and let me know that you found me through this podcast, I would love to know the connection and say hello back to you. And it's really important to me to be available to answer questions and to help. If you just want to chat and say, here's where I'm at, I would love to have that chat with you over DMs. And I do aim to share a lot of helpful things on my social media too. So if you follow me there, you might find some more tidbits and tips and tricks and perspective on how to run your own social media without it running your life, how to make Instagram feel a little bit more approachable so that you can connect with people. That is what it's all about in my little corner of the internet.
Well, your Instagram is so great. I recommend everybody go check you out because I know I've learned a lot and I know
Thank
you all
you.
will too. So don't worry, all those links will be in the show notes so you don't have to go digging. But thank you again for being here. Like I said, this whole season is about navigating change as a founder, and I've got so many great guests, just like Leanne, coming to with their own takes on basically every corner of running a business. So if this episode made you think of someone, maybe a founder friend who's been side-eyeing their follower count and feeling bad about it, send this to them, give them some tips on what they can be doing to feel better about it, but also make it more intentional for their day-to-day. Honestly, that's the best thing you can do for a show like this, and also probably for them too. So make sure you hit subscribe on Spotify or wherever you listen so you never miss an episode. That's it for today. I will see you next time, and as always, I will save you a seat.